Good morning, good morning. It is Monday, the 27th of November 2023. I hope you're all well. I hope you can all see me and hear me. Welcome, welcome. So today, I want to discuss a few things. First of all, I should explain. In a few hours, I'm supposed to be flying to Germany to start my journey over to Ukraine with toys and humanitarian supplies. However, has anyone who's checked the weather in Germany might be able to tell you they're having a heavy blanket of snow at the moment in Germany, and it will be dangerous to start the journey today or tomorrow. So we're going to postpone it for a couple of days, which is really annoying because it means that I've got to reschedule my flights and my travel insurance and all that kind of jazz. But rest assured, we will get all this stuff to Ukraine in the next few days or maybe a couple of weeks. It depends. If the weather's against us, then we will get it there one way or another. But suffice to say, I'm tremendously disappointed that we're not heading out today. Obviously, it was all set up and packed and ready to go. So never mind. Anyway, so what I wanted to talk to you about today is Rishi Sunak. Unfortunately, sorry. He has put out a tweet today, which boasts of, what is it? 29.5 billion of new investment, he says, in the UK, growing the economy and creating thousands of jobs. That's the spiel right there. I might be able to share this this with you if I do this, and then oh shit! Oh, there you go. There you go. So this is the post that he's put on. Let's see who's trending: Heathrow, Stuart Lee, Andrew Pierce, and Grace Dent. Don't know what Grace Dent is, but whatever. No, I mean Twitter. It's probably something to do with people being transphobic. Just having a guess there. I have no idea. Anyway, yeah. So this was the tweet that he put out about an hour ago, saying that we've secured £29.5 billion of new investment in the UK, growing the economy and creating thousands of jobs. Okay, so here's the thing. At the moment, we have a lot of jobs going spare. We have over 100,000 vacancies in the NHS alone. So it's not that we need to particularly grow more jobs at the moment. What we need is to grow the economy in a significant way. And 29.5 billion sounds like a lot to just a normal everyday household here. But to a government, to an economy that's worth $3 trillion a year in GDP, it's not that much. It really is a drop in the ocean. But what he's bragging about in this tweet that he's put up is that is 3 times what we achieved at the 2021 Global Investment Summit. Read between the lines, do a bit of in your head maths. That means that at the 2021 Global Investment Summit, we managed to secure less than £10 billion worth of investment in the country. Now, mitigating circumstances. Brexit had just kicked in, obviously, terrible idea. And also, COVID had been all kicking off. This is before the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. But even so, less than 10 billion. There, he just admitted it on his tweet. Less than 10. They managed to attract less than £10 billion of investment. I mean, seriously, that's like nothing. That is like 10 decent video games that we create in this country, equivalent of, if that. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is pathetic. And the fact that he's trumping, we're now 3 times the size of that. It's like, oh my God, it is the case of going, I had 1 pail of shit on Monday and now I have 2. And on Wednesday, I'm going to have 3. Woohoo! I'm rich. Beyond my wildest dreams. Look how I have grown these pails of shit. It's just, it's pathetic. It really is. Let's drill down into, I'll come to the chat in a moment, but let's drill down. Sorry, my mouth's not working. Into the effect that Brexit has had on our economy. According to the Centre for European Reform, the UK economy has incurred a loss of £33 billion pounds in trade and investment due to Brexit. This has made the economy 5.5% smaller than it would have been had the UK remained in the EU. The UK's goods trade and investment are also lower by 7% and 11% respectively, compared with if the Remain campaign had won in the 2016 referendum. Moreover, the Office for Budget Responsibility has estimated that Brexit will reduce the UK's GDP by 4% over 15 years from 2016, amounting to a loss of around £100 billion. So if you just look at the investment side of things, don't look at GDP, but like the investment side of things, this 30 billion in investment, it's actually net minus several billion compared with where we would be had we not left the European Union and erected unnecessary trade barriers for no reason against ourselves. So I'm just pouring my flask in a bit of a weird way. Pouring my tea because you got to have your morning brew. So this weekend I had to go and get my international driving license. Never had to get that, when we hadn't Brexited. I've driven in South America, I've driven in North America, I've driven in Africa, driven all over Europe, driven in India, I've driven in Australia, I've driven in New Zealand, I've driven in a lot of places around the world. I've never needed an international driving license or driving permit, an IDP as it's called. And what an arcane system. So I'll just tell you this little story before I get into the chat. On Saturday, I knew I had to get this international driving permit because apparently they got more strict about them at the border with Ukraine. So I went to the post office in Durham city centre at around 2 o'clock in the afternoon because it said on the website that it closed at 3. And I turned up and it actually closed at 12:30, because Christmas is coming. Who needs a post office to be open on a Saturday? So I was like, oh shit. So I had to find another post office. However, the other post offices that exist, the ones that do international driving permits are few and far between. So I had to go and find one that actually did do that and turn up with 2 passport-sized photos of myself. So that's my photo sheet that I made of passport. The exact right size. I had to measure it with using a little ruler. I took it out. I wish I had it. I think it's packed in my bag, but it is literally. It's over there. Oh, I can't be bothered getting it. It's literally like a ration book from the 1940s. Like seriously, it looks like a ration book from the 1940s. And they write in, like literally by hand, they write in your name and your address and all this kind of stuff. And then they stamp it. They stamp it for all the things you're allowed to drive. So you're allowed to drive a car with a little trailer, you're allowed to drive a little van. And then they get your passport photo and they glue it in. They glue it in with a Pritt stick. And it gets better. There's actually 3 different types of international driving permit, and you have to get a different one depending on where you're going. One is the 1926 permit. Another one is like the 1949 permit or something. The one that I got, I think, was the 1967 permit. And the woman in the post office said to me, yeah, we never had to do many of these before Brexit. And I'm like, yeah, bet you didn't. Oh my God, what a waste of my time. What a waste of your time. What a waste of literally everyone in the world's time. That'll be £5.50, please. Which is all right, because I mean, at least that's cheaper than your ESTA's going to be, your electronic travel authorization when it comes in Europe. It's going to be less than that. That's less than it will be. And also, it's less than I had to spend on a magnetic GB sticker. Sorry, UK sticker to stick on the back of the van last time we went to Ukraine last year, which you have to do now because of Brexit. All things being equal, we could have collected all of the toys and the humanitarian stuff here and driven across from here. Maybe not gone through Germany because it's full of snow. Maybe found another way to get there, maybe via, I don't know, Italy or something. But we could have found a way to do it. But leaving this country with a van full of merchandise, wrapped presents, would be an absolute nightmare getting out of the country because they'll inspect on that we would be inspected. It would be like, we want to know what's inside all of these wrapped presents. Thank you very much. And they might open them all. Who knows? You probably need a code off the government to be able to take that stuff into the EU because Brexit, because we voted for this. Like literally, people saw They saw an MP being stabbed to death and then thought, I want to be on that same side, the same side as that man who screamed Britain first as he murdered one of our MPs, a mother of two. I want to be on the same side as that. And it just makes me just so angry that people can have such blithe cruelty in their hearts that they did this. They did this to us. And yeah, and it's not just, you can blame the government, you can to some extent, and obviously you can blame Nigel Farage, you can blame Jeremy Corbyn, I do, but at the end of the day, millions of people made that decision for themselves. They thought, I know, I'll be on the side of every Nazi in the country, every fascist, every racist in the country. Not everyone who voted for Brexit is a racist, but all racists voted for Brexit. But now the chickens are coming home to roost because our economy is FUCK'd. Absolutely. And we're in pretty dire straits there. And also, we're getting more people from other countries coming here than ever before. But at least we control our unstoppable immigration now. I love it. To all these small-minded little racists living in Chipping Norton, they'll be sitting there seething. Seething they will be. I thought I voted to get rid of all these foreigners. The only thing I've got to feel good about myself is the fact that I was born on this rock. What an amazing thing that happened to me. Through no fault of my own. Just a happy accident. I was born on a rock in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Anyway, One Angry Pagan, thank you very much for the super chat. Graham, it's like when the Tories are confronted with graphs showing bugger all growth and they fixate on the tiny little bumps in the graph and they say, look, growth, see, it's intellectually juvenile. Yeah. So I don't know if you know this, but my partner used to work in the civil service and her job was doing statistics for the government back in the days when it was Labour and then for a few years in the coalition government. And it fascinating chats with Catherine. I'd love to get her on the show one day to talk about this stuff, but she's a bit camera shy, so I really doubt that's going to happen. But yeah, that's what they do. They basically look at a little bump in a graph and say, oh my God, it's grown. It's grown. That's why they always talk about growth. They very rarely talk about things in absolute terms. I mean, obviously, 29.5 billion in investment. I mean, that's better than no investment at all. But compared with the investment that we got in 2016, let's have a look. UK inward investment 2016. The value of inward FDI flows in 2016 reached a record high, increasing by 120.3 billion. I mean, wow. So, yeah, the value of the UK's foreign direct investment positions abroad increased from... Oh, hang on. This is the value of the UK's foreign direct investment positions. Oh, this is outward investment. Sorry. The foreign investments. Okay. Sorry. The value of FDI positions held by foreign investors in the UK, inward investment, increased from 1,032.5 billion. It's a trillion in 2015 to 1.2 trillion in 2016. So that's so that's an increase there of over almost 170 billion in 1 year. And Rishi Sunak is going, we've got 29, we've got 20, so 170 is a bigger number than 29. And he's like, it's 3 times as big as it was 3 years ago. You gotta laugh or you'll cry. I know what I voted for, even though the consequences say different, says Fekopuni. Well, yeah, you're getting a lot of people now who claim that they swear that they voted Remain. But we've got social media to prove that they didn't. Dire Straits song Telegraph Road says, Simon, Nick and Diff, family member is in care and all staff are Nigerian. They're perfectly lovely, but the travel distance, the carbon footprint, compared to, say, the EU is huge. And also, let's make a point that isn't against people coming here from Nigeria per se. However, they need doctors in Nigeria. They need nurses and care workers in Nigeria. And we keep poaching them all. I mean, that's not great. What is a better system? Just come with me on this one, okay? A much better system is that we operate as a continent, like the USA operates 50 different states, each with their own individual rule, but you've got a federal system over the top of them protecting people's rights. So when people in Kentucky go, I don't like being part of the federal government, and you're like, well, you do know this is the federal government that actually protects your right to bear arms, and that could be taken away if it wasn't an amendment of the federal constitution. Because your state constitution can be changed a lot easier than the federal constitution, just saying. But like America proves two things. One, working together is very profitable with like 50 different states all bringing money in from Alaska to Hawaii, to New York to Florida, although Florida's going underwater at the moment. The other thing is, if immigration was a curse, as Nigel Farage and his horrible little racist gobshite mates want you to think, then North Korea would be the richest country in the world, and the USA would be the poorest, because the USA is 99% immigrants. Just saying. But it's not, is it? Also, you'd find a country like Japan. Their economy wouldn't have stagnated since the 1990s. Why is their economy stagnated? Well, because Japan, although there are, more people from other countries there than before, Japan has traditionally been quite resistant to migration. And you have an aging population, you have a declining population in as we were discussing the other day on the on the agenda, where I happened to mention that I thought that the population of Japan was somewhere near 129 million, and actually it's 123 now. It used to be that nearly that high, and it's just come down over the last few years quite rapidly. We're talking like 1 million a year. It's a lot. It's gone off a cliff because people aren't having kids and the older people are dying. Anyway, so there. North Korea, America. That's a good point to make to anyone. Thanks, Nick and Diff. I think that's what you were talking about when you said good point. It might be something that I said earlier. I don't know. The point is that our economy has been absolutely trashed by Brexit, and it's not just the fact that our economy will, won't grow as much as it should have done. It's the fact that 4% of growth that we have lost out on because that our economy has shrunk means that we are going to be continuously keeping our head just above water for the rest of probably our lives now because of Brexit. Earlier this year we had growth rates of 0.1%, and then we had a growth rate of 0.0%, and they were like, "Yay, we didn't go into recession." But the reality is that if our economy doesn't grow, or at least we don't invest better than we currently do, because obviously we don't invest at all. Like we do stupid. Well, I'm saying we. The government, the Tory government that's been in charge since 2010, does really stupid effing things. One of them is austerity. So at a time when the economy was picking up after the credit crunch of 2007, 2008, after that, the economy, obviously it took a massive knock. We had a run on the banks almost, with Northern Rock having to be propped up by the government and all this kind of stuff. But Gordon Brown and Alistair Darling, give them their due. Darling. What makes me think of Blackadder. They managed to steer the UK on a route that meant that we didn't suffer the major hyperinflation or the consequences that might have happened and might have otherwise happened. And the economy was recovering. You chart it on a graph. You see a big dip after 2008, sorry, and then you see it going up again until 2010, and then around that time something happens, or we had a change of government, and that government brought in the most stupid thing that you could possibly bring in if you want to grow an economy: austerity, which meant they cut back public services to the bone, so people had a lot less in the way of disposable income. Doing that created a situation in which people were spending less money. People spending less money means that the economy has less money running around it. More people stuffing fivers into the mattress or behind the carriage clock on the mantle. It is just the worst possible thing that they could have done at the worst possible time. But then they did Brexit, which is the second worst thing they could possibly do. Well, that's actually the first. That took a new position. the worst possible thing they could do at the worst possible time. And then they did the third thing, which is also the worst possible thing they could do at the worst possible time, which is have Boris Johnson in charge of the country in a pandemic. A man who is thick as the proverbial pig shit, and he hasn't got a clue about anything. He was told things in the morning that he had forgotten in the afternoon. He was shown charts in the morning that he had forgotten in the afternoon, probably because he was hungover, probably because he was high as a kite, as he often always is. Maybe, allegedly. This is the people running the country. And then, worst possible thing, we come out of the pandemic and we install, who's this? Liz Truss. Liz Truss. And she slams in to into number 10 with the, on this wave of the IEA and these Tufton Street wankers, these bastards who run the economy, try and pull all the levers of power, call themselves charities while they operate out of one of the most expensive properties in London. We're a charity, don't you know? We're very charitable to billionaires. We're We're trying to get tax breaks for billionaires. And she brought in a massive unfunded tax cut for the rich, and it trashed our economy. So now you'll notice the Tories will make they'll make comparisons with where the economy was last year, or the year before, or the year before that. So you've got COVID, the recovery year from COVID in 2021, which is pretty much the same. And then last year we got Truss's budget. So of course it's going to be better. Well, at least you're not dead, they said, as you crying your eyes out because the situation's so horrific. And something else I'm going to mention after this super chat. Just one moment. Thank you very much to One Angry Pagan. Again, thank you. Very generous this morning. Given that our net migration is the highest level ever, it's actually insane that our economy is so stagnant. The Tories have really shown their inadequacy for government. Brexit broken Britain. Yeah, the Tories have broken the economy. And what Labour need to do, and to some extent they're doing this, but what they really, really need to focus on is the economy. It's the economy, stupid. No one gives a toss about these mad culture wars that the right are trying to foist on us. They're trying to dictate the narrative and go, oh, the Barbie film's so woke. Oh, the new Doctor Who, it's so woke. Oh, news flash for you. Little Miss Snowflake, little Mr. Snowflake living in, Doctor Who land going, oh my God, they got a trans person on Doctor Who and it's a big part of the story. Doctor Who has always been progressive. In fact, one of the reasons why Michael Grade wanted to get it off the TV in the 1980s, Michael Grade, privately educated, of course, he's the head of Ofcom now, isn't he? Chairman of Ofcom, which is nice, friend of the Tories. And he, basically didn't like Doctor Who because he thought it was a bit too progressive. And it was teaching children about the value of being nice to people and not judging people based on their appearance. Or perhaps their sexuality, or perhaps, what they want to be called, or their pronouns, or whatever. Maybe. That's what Doctor Who was always about. It was an educational program for children. And they go, oh, it's so woke, it's so PC now. Cry me a river. Little gam-gams. Gam-flakes. Anyway, Britannia Unhinged. Oh, I love that, Brian Ferguson. Can I steal that and write a book? Where's G? Is it right that if I had to go to another country to tell everyone that people who come from other countries, it persists an issue? I'm confused. Yes, you should go and live in Spain and then complain about, the reason I left Britain was because of all the foreigners in Britain. Unlike the people in Spain who are not foreign. And obviously, those people are expats. They're not immigrants, they're expats. It's a completely different thing. Why don't we just start calling immigrants expats? I think that they'll like it. I'd like it because it would make people sound. I guess it's all semantics, but it's important, isn't it? Advertising, marketing. You say, oh, well, we'll get some migrants to do that. It sounds a bit exploitative. But if you say, oh, we'll get some expats in, it sounds like, they've got some expertise. The power of language, my friends. The power of language. Proud to be woke, says Audrey. Good job. So am I. What's the opposite of being woke? Being asleep. Sleepwalking, being a zombie, just doing what you're told by GB News and the Tory government of 55 Tufton Street. I say no. I chose something else. I chose to be a little bit more enlightened than that, because I know that given the opportunity, a lot of people on this planet will try and con you. And I just refuse to be conned. I read a story this weekend on the BBC website, you might have seen it, about an 80-year-old Floridian woman who got with this homeless handyman, 20 years her junior. And it was all this big story. And then the thing that really stood out for me was the fact that he told her not to get a COVID vaccination because, vaccinations are bad, because that's what all the dickheads say. And it turns out that, actually, she could have done with that vaccination because she got COVID and died soon afterwards. Yeah, so when someone tells you not to get a vaccination, just have a little thought in the back of your head, right? Just have a little bit of a thought. Are they trying to kill me? Because, I think they're trying to. They might not even know they're trying to kill you, but they're trying to kill you. Yeah, I would shut those people out your life. You don't need that. You don't need people who want you dead in your life. No matter how passionately they believe their mumbo jumbo, that they believe that, all the scientists in the world got together to microchip everyone. Like your dog gets microchipped. They're just trying to microchip us, and then they can track wherever we go. And I'm like, we've all got phones, mate. I mean, Jesus. Language is a lethal weapon for the right. It is indeed. Colin says, Scott Bakula has spoken fondly of Quantum Leap episode in which Sam leapt into the body of a chimpanzee. Yes, he was a NASA chimpanzee ready to be shot into space. A space monkey. I know chimpanzees aren't monkeys. That was a great episode. Loved Quantum Leap. What a show. God, I read that too. Woke equals decent, says Pineapple Boy. You're absolutely right, Pineapple Boy. Speaking of Michael Gray, Chris Morris called him a "see you next Tuesday" subliminally during an episode of that brilliant Brass Eye. He did. They had a one frame subliminal message that they got into trouble for that said Michael Gray is a "see you next Tuesday," which he is, and he's the guy who destroyed Doctor Who for the BBC, because probably part of his idealism, coming from the kind of privileged background that he came from, is that the BBC shouldn't exist, I guess, and they put him in charge of the BBC, and he got rid of one of their most successful TV shows that they had in terms of merchandise and VHS sales. Like, think about it. No one buys copies of EastEnders on DVD. They don't even buy it on VHS, sorry. They don't even buy it on DVD. No one buys a soap opera to watch again. It's a continuous thing, but anything sci-fi is a money. It just makes you money. Even if it's not successful when it first comes out, eventually it will make you money because people get into it and they start buying the toys and the collectibles and the merchandise. Just think of yogurt from Spaceballs. He's got the right idea. Merchandise, Spaceballs, the towel. Quantum Leap was epic. I love that show, MacGyver. Man, I'm old. That's Nick and Diff. I watched a clip from Mythbusters, which I always loved, with Adam Savage and Jamie Thingy, whose name I've forgotten. And they were doing MacGyver. And they had Adam had like a mullet wig on, and it was could they? There was an episode of MacGyver where there was a bomb inside a truck, like a postal truck or something, and he got someone to put like wet cement into the truck and filled it up full of cement. And it exploded, but the cement took all the impact, so the people around that didn't actually die. And they did it, and it worked quite well. But then they realized that the dynamite didn't all blow up. And then they did it again, and the dynamite did blow up, and oh my God, everyone would have died. MacGyver would be dead. Everyone would be dead. Anyway, moving on. Just bringing together a couple of my favourite shows there. MacGyver and Mythbusters, put them together. Brilliant. God, I'll never buy EastEnders on DVD. I bought Life on Mars, though. Really, really good. Yeah. Interestingly, Life on Mars, written by a guy called Matthew Graham, and he was punting that script around for ages. I think it was about 10 years. And it was the success of Lost that made it so that the BBC went, oh, okay, yeah, we can commission a TV show where, there's sort of timey-wimey things going on. And also, it's one of the reasons why they gave Doctor Who the thumbs up. So although terribly lost the plot towards the end, it was absolutely crucial in bringing in, that sort of new age of television where people, TV execs, I guess, were willing to take a punt on a new idea. Isn't that nice? Anyway, so sorry, going completely off piste here, as I have a tendency to do. One Angry Pagan, thank you very much for the super chat. One Angry Pagan has been propping up the super chat today. Thank you so much. Showed the 2 Ronnies to my missus last night and mortified as she had no clue who they were. Oh my God. I think when I got these glasses, Catherine said that like one of the 2 Ronnies. I was like, oh, thanks for that. Emma Price, thank you very much. Very childish, I know. I wear t-shirts to the pub to wind up the gammon. Drag queens don't hurt children. Voting Tory does. Something antisocial, always anti-Tory. Fabulous, Emma. I absolutely love it. Thank you very much for the super chat. You're absolutely right. It's not when I go to Glastonbury. Not that I got a Glastonbury ticket this year. For next year. That's something I like to do. Just have a flag that'll wind people up. In 2017, I was the guy in the crowd at the Jeremy Corbyn bit with the massive bollocks to Brexit flag. It was a big yellow flag with bollocks to Brexit written on it in a kind of graffiti font, and in blue letters. And it was good. It went down well. Although there was a few older people that came up to me. Not all old people. Not every single old person in the world came up to me, but a few did and went, "Oh, you hate democracy, you do." They didn't necessarily sound like that, but in my head they did. Why do you hate democracy? And I'm like, no, I just hate the idea that the posh privileged wankers of the world managed to hoodwink 17 million people into voting for something that is clearly against our better interests. It's about sovereignty, mate. Sovereignty. Can't eat sovereignty, mate. Can't export sovereignty. You can't import sovereignty. It's just a nebulous idea that doesn't mean anything because all countries in the world are interconnected. And I had this idea for a moment that a country that has very little in the way of natural resources and can't feed itself, doesn't have enough food that we can grow in this country for ourselves, it's a bit disingenuous to say we can survive on sovereignty. You can't. You can starve on sovereignty. That's great. It's a bit like when you're being a creative and someone says they're going to pay you an exposure, and you're like, will you accept these exposure tokens? And the guy at the ice cream store on the beach says, fuck no. Anyway, Biden Flavor Compop says, I continue to vote, quote, Blackadder, all versions like this one. I don't want a job. I want you to get a job, get the money and give it to me. Yeah, that works. The US version of Life on Mars really jumped the shark. Oh, don't get me started on the US versions of things. There was a US pilot of Red Dwarf that was beyond awful, although weirdly had Robert Llewellyn in it playing Crichton for some reason. And also, my favourite terrible transposition of a British show was a show called Amanda's, which was, you can look this up, it was the American version of Fawlty Towers. And it had B. Arthur from the Golden Girls playing Basil Fawlty and Sybil Fawlty as one character because literally they got rid of Basil. Or as John Cleese tells the story, he sat down in a room with these TV execs and they said, "We love the show, John, but we want to get rid of this dreadful Basil character." Yeah, that went down like a lead balloon. And there was also a version of One Foot in the Grave called Cosby, starring Bill Cosby, the nation's favourite grandfather. Anyway, that was awful. And in One Foot in the Grave, something bad always happened in each episode, like something awful. Like you go round to someone's house to like buy a pair of shoes, and like literally there would be like the woman's dead husband sitting on the couch, and she'll take the shoes off the corpse and then give them to Victor. It was a bit like that, except they took all those bits out. So, for instance, in the bit where Victor puts he's burning a load of grass in the backyard, and he accidentally kills the tortoise that he's supposed to be looking after because it's in the grass, and he puts it into the burner. In the American version, the tortoise miraculously survives being put in the fire. Oh, America. I think you missed the point. Anyway, right, I'm getting off. It's 10:05. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm not going to Germany today. So I'm going to go and cancel my flights and all that kind of shit now. Oh, it's a nightmare. Anyway, so yeah, I'll crack on with that. I might go over to the Discord server. So if you'd like to join me on the Discord server, we'll go and listen to James O'Brien together. And I might be back tonight for the swear jar with Super Tanty because I'm still going to be here in the UK and not on my way to Ukraine with Christmas presents for the kids because it snowed too much and I don't have a magic sled. Anyway, thank you very, very much for watching. Thanks for the super chats. Thanks for putting up with me and all that jazz. And hopefully I'll see you later. If not, I'll see you tomorrow. And until then, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.